sales reps, salespeople, business owners in the roofing world are embracing for it. It's, embracing for impact. Here it comes. You ready for it? You better be. You hopefully been planning for it. You better have your operations and rocking and rolling. You better have your team trained up mentally, physically to climb those roofs.
RCS Radio, brought to you by RCS. I'm Michael Morris with my good buddy Ben Kitchen. Ben, there's a lot to go over in the roofing world, but first of all, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. How is roofing treating you? Because I know we're going into what we would call the Death Valley stretch of 6 months where your hair is going to be on fire, what's left of it. How do you approach that?
One day at a time, one phone call at a time, one text message at a time, huffing and puffing from the beginning of the day to the end, whenever that happens.
Whatever hour it cools off.
Whenever it cools off, whenever I can get a moment, but it's what you want of it. It's what you can bring to the table. You got to have a level of intensity. It's exciting. It's what us sales reps, salespeople, business owners in the roofing world are embracing for it. It's, embracing for impact. Here it comes. You ready for it? You better be. You hopefully been planning for it. You better have your operations and rocking and rolling. You better have your team trained up mentally, physically to climb those roofs. Water, everything. We're talking, breakfast, making sure you're fueled up.
It's funny that you say that because there's a guy that goes to my gym, and so I go every morning, get it out of the way. There's no excuses. And there's a guy that I would see him lifting weights, and he literally stopped lifting weights for like 2 weeks. And I just thought, this is like, you're already in great shape. And he got off the treadmill, and he's talking to me, and I said, hey, man, why are you doing that? Like, you're in great shape. Why aren't you lifting weights? He goes, I got to get on a lot of roofs. And I said, you're in here running and walking. He goes, you have no idea what it's like because it's 8 to 10 hours a day and you're driving, getting on one. He said, it's almost like being a firefighter, but you're not rescuing anybody. You're just going up and down that heat constantly. And I guess I never thought about the physical labor of doing that.
I have this thing within my sales team that I'm texting, and I'm like, hey, how many flagpoles did you climb today? I want to see you touching that flagpole, meaning I want you touching the top of that roof. And when I see those photos coming in, it's not easy climbing a 7-8 slope roof. It's not like that's crazy. It's dangerous.
What kind of shoes do you wear when you go up there? Are they just your work boots and you're going up there?
Cougar Paws is what they're called. So shout out to Cougar Paws. Maybe send me a sample.
Send us a bunch of free boots and all that kind of shit.
But I buy the guys Cougar Paws. They're like special sponges, and maybe you can show a video of like what that Cougar Paw looks like. One. But they're special roofing boots so that you can climb roofs because those granules, a lot of the roofs that we're going on are 15, 20, 30 years old. So they're super outdated, and as soon as you climb up there, the granules start falling down because it's so brittle. And if you were putting on your like work boots or tennis shoes, some people are crazy enough to put sandals on barefoot. So shout out to those roofing guys.
I saw a dumbass do that on my ex-wife's house. We was in Jesus sandals, and it was before we knew each other, and I just said, well, I'm sure he knows what he's doing. And then as he started getting up there and I saw those little flip-flops coming off, I thought, he's going to die here.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, man, why don't you just do this a different day? And so he never fully got up the ladder because I'm like, I could see him landing on his head.
It can be so hot that if they did have flip-flops on, it would actually melt to the roof, and they would be in some serious trouble.
How much heat does that, because that product heats up because the sun is just beating on it. How hot is it on top of a roof?
I would say probably 130 degrees.
When I see those crews so when you see them like stripping a roof and there'll be like 4 or 5 guys in a row just stripping it.
They're stripping and they're dripping because they're sweating hard.
Oh, those guys look like they're training to fight Apollo Creed up there, but it's like it looks like such grueling work. They haven't even started. They're taking the trash out before they're doing the next thing.
That's why you need to have so many people. Like when you're like, oh yeah, how many installers you have on the roof at a time? I mean, 5 to 6 at a minimum, because I need them to be in and out. Because at the end of the day, I mean, it's a long day. It's a 12-hour day, 13-hour day that they're on the roof tearing off in the morning. By 10 a.m., 11 a.m., they should be all torn off. They want to get in before that, because that's the hardest. That's the hardest work, is tearing off that roof, depending on even how many layers or if you have to put decking on it. But we want to get that off. We want to get that off before the sun starts blazing in the middle of the day. So it's important that we get there at 6:30 a.m.
I'm amazed that you go through those days and you're willing to do it again the next day. I think it takes a certain breed of person to go, this is going to be an ass whipping today.
Yeah.
And you go through it and you're tired and you want to go home and go to sleep and eat. And then you go, I got 2 more to do tomorrow. I can't wait to get there. It's a special breed of person.
You know, everyone's got a job to do. And people pick and choose what they want to do. It wouldn't be my first thing to lay shingles. You'll talk to, there's people at Home Depot I run into, and they like come up to me and they're like, you put shingles on? I'm like, hell no.
Yeah.
No, heck no. I can't. I'm too small to put shingles on, but yet there's guys smaller than me putting up 2 bundles of shingles, climbing a ladder. I'm impressed by the talent that we have on our team. These guys are soldiers. They are working their butts off. I mean, mad respect to roofing companies in general out there, siders, even gutters. Just being up that high on pitches that are 7, 8, 12 slopes, hanging from rope. I mean, that's crazy business. That's crazy.
The other thing is, it's not like you go to school for it where they go, listen, we're going to go through this textbook. We're going to work you through this thing. It is, you either can do this job and can put up with the physical extremes of it, or you can't. Whereas like somebody could go to school to be a doctor and then you get out and you go, oh, I don't really like blood and all that stuff. I'm good at this part. But if you're going to be in roofing, you're going to have to do the grueling part of it.
Absolutely.
But again, that's why I admire it, because Nate and I will always have this conversation where it's like, well, we're not digging a ditch here. We're just making content. We're creating campaigns. We're in a semi-air conditioned building. And then you look outside and you're like, shit, man, I wouldn't want to do that. And those guys are going to do that every day, probably for 30 to 40 years of their life.
Yep.
How do you find somebody that's like a lifer in roofing?
Like the crews that we have on our team are the happiest people that I run into. They may have their bad days just like anybody else with it. But you're sitting in an office right now. We have fake light going on. They're sitting outside, birds are chirping, the sun's out, they're getting a nice tan. They are listening to music.
They're like Snow White, they're singing through that window. This is great.
They're laughing. And that's one of the compassions that I have about roofing and how we go about our business is that we're outside all the time. But we're not just outside, we're also outside making money. And we're building cool jobs. We're doing construction. It is fun to do construction. And what we're changing these homes from what it looked like before, so you should look at a picture. You should show a picture right now, before and after. It's night and day. People that are like, oh, yeah, I want to sell my home. There's a lot of customers that are like, oh, yeah, I'm selling my home in the next year. But if we can transform their home into a brand new looking home as if it was the one that they just bought. I mean, they even do like shows about this. Like, they'll like, here, give us $100,000 and we'll transform your interior. And then you can decide if you want to buy a new home or not. Same thing here. What we do with exterior, the professionalism that we give and the experience that we have and the product knowledge with it, we can do anything to your home. We can do board and batten siding with the vertical, 4-inch siding vinyl, Royal Building product, white, black, it doesn't matter what color. My house is transformed from a 1960 to 2024 on just the material alone. And you need to know how to install it. You need to know how to lay it, but and how it can flow with each other. But it is so cool what you can do. And I think that's why people that are in this business love this business, because they're changing it and making it pop. Every job that we do, we're making your home look like the best home in the neighborhood when we're done with it. And that word of mouth is getting out. And people are definitely calling us. Referrals are calling us. And we can't be any more appreciative than we are now.
Is that the biggest compliment, is when somebody calls and says, hey, my neighbor or my buddy or my dad, you did their stuff, I want you to do mine? Is that the biggest compliment you can get? Because I'm sure people mean to thank you for the work when it's done. But I feel like when someone does work inside the house, you know, the kitchen, bath, all that, they're like, oh, my God, you made such a difference. Not realizing that if you got a sieve above your head and it's just dripping down rain, it doesn't matter what it looks like. Do you get a lot of people saying, boy, you really changed my look at my house? Or is it more the referral goes, they said you did such a great job?
We get it all the time. It really does change. They have dry shingles. There's oil in shingles, if you didn't know that, asphalt and oil. And you can tell a 15, 20-year-old roof, it looks dried up. And when you put a fresh new shingle up there, for the next 10, 12 years, that thing's going to look brand new. It looks like someone that has an Air Force One tennis shoe, right? That they've been beaten up. They've been going to concerts with them, falling over, grass stains, dirt, whatever. And then they go back to the store and they're like, man, these are just too beat up, and they put a fresh new one, and it just pops. You know, if you're in the Air Force Ones, I'm a sneaker guy, but it is just night and day, and it really changes. Even putting gutters on a home can make it pop, because a lot of times, you know, no one's power washing their gutters and cleaning them up, or they're just so old and water just flowing out and it's not flowing correctly with it.
Well, they always talk about that street value of a home, what it looks like, because it's kind of like when we try to explain billboards, when somebody wants to buy a billboard. If that billboard doesn't register to you within 1.8 seconds, it's lost. It's the same thing with a house, because you can look at 10 houses in a row. And again, like you said, that darker sheen of a tile versus where it looks brown, or it looks like it needs to be washed, like almost tree sap has been on. That's not what it is. It's just dried out. But when you look at a row of houses, the one that sticks out is the one that has the best looking siding, has a newer roof, and that newer roof almost looks like wrapping paper. You know what I mean? Like this is a new house versus everybody else in the neighborhood.
Is it too good to be true? Can we actually do that? Can you actually do that? Like, a lot of the times, these homeowners don't know what they're getting until it's all finished up. And you're like, wow, that actually looks better than I thought. I'm like, I know. That's what I've been trying to tell you. And, you know, the proof's in the pudding. And that's why we get those referrals. They're so excited about it. And I'm excited about it because we just did another outstanding job. And they want to tell everybody about it. They're telling all their friends. I think we did 350 roofs last year. I mean, we did a lot of roofs. And this year, the referrals that are coming in just from those customers with it, I mean, I want to say about 40% of our business is referrals at this point. And that's outstanding. Like that's above the mark. We want to get, I want to end up being 50, 60% this year. And that's just by doing really good work.
Do you mean referrals from, because I know you do some commercial projects and residential, but like, are you looking for more referrals from the residential end or the commercial end?
Both, you know. When you do a commercial job, you got to think about how many people that actually can touch. So if you do a commercial building or a church or something like that,
well, a church gives you the possibility of getting at least 200 possible referrals just doing that.
Referrals just from doing the church. It's bigger. That's why it's very important to get these kind of buildings, because we can reach so many more people. Oh, and by the way, give us a shout out. When you're doing your speech, let them know how great we did for you.
Part of the sermon about the Lord is who protected the house, right?
Yep. Hey, who protected the house and who painted that chapel? RCS Roofing did. Give them a shout. We put signs in the right by the door. We're
Right
like,
in the
hey,
rectory.
look, hey, what's up? How's it going?
You're making your confession. Here's a business card. Do you look at it? I know that you look at every job as its own thing, right? So like that's my own snowflake. When you're doing a commercial job, does your mind kind of like expand, kind of like where you go, oh my God, there's so many people in here that I could actually affect their home?
Every single time. I mean, if you're not thinking about your business almost all the time with it, what are you doing?
Right.
What are you doing? I put my heart and soul into this thing. So it is personal to me. Everything's personal to me. Don't make business personal. I'm like, well, that's just, I do good business.
I think that is a really hard thing to say because you can make a business decision, but you're either mad or you're going to make somebody else mad by, even if it's the right thing to do. How do you separate the two? Like, say that one of your guys, we kind of talked about this before, is like one of your guys makes a mistake. It's not personal if you rip them for making a mistake to teach them because you're coaching them, right? When they make a mistake, I'm laughing because it's probably a mistake that I've already made. Right.
And I'm just there like, listen, dude. And they're more mad at themselves than me tearing them a new one. Right. Okay. So I'm like, dude, he's over here crying almost, huffing and puffing, like I'm about to fire him or something. I'm like, listen, dude, you're an asset to me. You're one of the guys. We're all gonna make mistakes. I'll be the first one to admit it. It's what you do with that mistake. We're here for solutions. We're not one of those, companies, managers that are, writing you up. I can't believe you did that. Like. Next one, you're fired with it. I mean, obviously, you better not have a next one.
Right.
Because we'll have another conversation.
This is your freebie, but if you do it again.
I had a guy pull one of our trucks, backed it into a garage. And he's over here calling me. He's like, dude, what do I do? I'm like, well, first.
Run.
Yeah. I'm like, the proper procedures of how that happens.
Tell him you work for Able Roofing. No,
I'm like, that's why we have insurance to protect things like that. We'll take care of it. It's not fun that it happened, but it happened, and this is how we have to address it. And I'm, laughing because you're going to be hard on yourself, but I'm like, dude, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
But please,
let me tell you
it's
how
not that big
disappointed
of
I
a
am
deal.
by your life decision today, but it will be okay.
Are you safe? Is the homeowner alive? Is everything okay? Okay.
If they're under the wheel, we have a different conversation to have.
But, I just think that, like, out of anything, man, doing good business and doing it right, even if it means taking 2 steps back, that's what you got to do. And until you can embrace that and be humbled by it, then you're gonna learn from your experiences.
So let me ask this: is being a business owner different than being a roofer in terms of how you make your decisions? Because, like you just said, the way you described it is that these things happen, blah 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 blah. That's a business owner. You are a roofer who's a business owner. Do you see them as two different things, or is that the same thing? I know it's a weird question.
It's a weird question, but I mean, I want to say it's the same thing because doing good business is by doing good business.
Right.
So doing good workmanship is just as important as making business decisions.
But I ask you this question because now that we're talking about you, there are other people that do that, drive by, knock on a door, chuck in a truck thing. They are roofers. They don't look at themselves as a business person. It is a business that I do. Do you see the difference of what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you've scaled yours differently, I'm not going to say anyone can put on a roof. Well, we know somebody in common that they can get roofing jobs, but they can't do it themselves, and they put it out to crews. They're still not a business owner because they're not teaching anybody anything. They're not doing a continuing ed thing.
Yeah.
I was more asking how you do it versus other people.
Well, that's a question of working in your business and not on your business. Those are two different things. So as a business owner, I look at every job long term. There's a certain amount of money I need to make on this job to make it make sense. We have costs. We have all that stuff to run a business and make sure that the public knows that, hey, this company has been around. They put the money into marketing, campaigns. It's a company that's been around. I've heard about them, not just by the salesperson, but multiple different ways. Right. I can trust that versus, yes, we're still door knocking because we're going to be finding those homes that are old and educating them in the field. But we're also doing the other things that other companies aren't doing, and that's going above and beyond. And just like Nike and even Fiesel Roofing out there that does terrific job marketing, Able Roofing, we want to be like them. We want to copycat, like we said in the previous podcast. We want to be going after the guys that are doing it the right way, that are out there marketing, direct mailing, and I don't know if they do door knocking. Maybe that's where our competitive advantage is with it.
Well, they would have to start at some point, you would think. But the bigger that those companies get and the more corporate they get, the leads the way they look at it is the lead should come from the marketing.
Absolutely.
And if the leads don't come, then cut the marketing. But when you have all things going, I think door knocking, I remember you bringing it up to me in the beginning, and I thought, man, I was thinking about being out in a neighborhood and it's 92 degrees and you're wearing, you know what I mean? It's like you're just knocking doors, hoping someone's home. To me, that wasn't appealing, but I can understand why that it works because who else is doing that?
You got to be good. You got to know your stuff. That's the best way of going about our business is like in your face door knocking. We get a ton of business. Think about all the door knockers that you get. You get the guys that do bug spray. You might even get lawn care.
Oh, places. The True Green dude is always out.
True Green. Gosh, I'll tell you what. Shout out to True Green and the hustle that they bring on, the cold calls and stuff like that. They give great deals too. We do too. We're giving free inspections. Right? Hey, look, I'd love to help you out. We might be able to get this roof approved. If you have any hail or wind damage from that recent storm with it, all you pay is your deductible on a $20,000 claim. What a deal.
Right.
Bug spray. They're going to get all your insects. They're good too. But they're in front of you. They're providing a service immediately to help. I think the door knocking business, the canvassing business is ultimately the number one best strategy for companies.
I'm glad you said canvassing because there are a lot of people that still do canvassing, but they get to the decision maker, the homeowner, and they don't know the information.
Yeah. So if they're just canvassing, then they don't know that information, but they're giving them an opportunity to at least have one of our sales guys come out.
But what I will say is your guys are not going to get trapped. Like you don't really canvass. You're door knocking with a purpose.
Correct.
Versus... Because this happened to me, I rarely answer my phone. Like, I'm not really home that much. But one time I answered because I just wanted to get the feeling of being sold something. Like, yeah. I know that's weird, but it's like, I want to see how you do it. What's your pitch? And they hand me the flyer and I go, okay, well, tell me about it. Oh, I don't really do that part. And I thought, I'll just keep pushing and say, well, who does that? Well, if you call this number, so now you've got me. I said, okay, keep going. Now I got to call a number. You wasted all your time.
Yeah.
Whereas if you get a live body in the middle of the day and you can go through the whole spiel, 85% of your work is done right then.
There's secrets to success for canvassers that actually get hired to just knock doors and set appointments up. And then you have your sales guy who can do both. He can canvass and sell it because he knows the process with it. So what do you want to do? You want a canvasser, or do you want a person that literally is just going to go? So yes, there's a lot of time wasted if that canvasser can't sell. But I want to give everyone the pie if I can give them the pie. But we got to start somewhere. You got to figure it out.
I think when you're that Swiss Army knife, like, you don't have to know everything, but you have to know enough to continue the conversation. It's kind of like a date, right? Every client is somebody that you're trying to engage with. You wouldn't go, hey, I really like your dress. And they go, oh, thank you. And you're like, so I'm going to leave for like 10 minutes and someone else is going to finish this up for me. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If you can keep them engaged long enough personably and then hand them off, that is still the transference of knowledge, which is all that sales is. I just want to warm this body up, and then here we go. We got a deal.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of warming up bodies, we're going to warm up the ears. People can listen to this episode of RCS Radio. We'll be back next week.